For the second time in history, the United States is hosting the Summit of the Americas. The gathering in Los Angeles includes world leaders from across North, South, and Central America. The White House says some of the discussions this week will focus on migration and climate change. For more on this, I am joined by Eric Farnsworth. He is the Vice President of the Council of the Americas. Eric focuses on U.S. Latin America policy and the relationship between countries in the region. So he's a perfect person for us to talk to about this. Eric, welcome.
Thanks, Lana.
So you actually attended the very first Summit of the Americas hosted by the U.S. in 1994. Tell us, how have these gatherings changed over the years? Particularly, talk to us about their importance.
Well, I was there in the first one in 1994. I won't tell you how old I was, but I was there. The summits have changed significantly between now and then. The reason why, in 1994, you have to remember where we were in terms of coming out of the Cold War, in terms of Latin America really turning the page toward democracy, and in terms of the United States really looking to help organize the Western Hemisphere on a strategic basis, because Europe was organizing itself, Asia was organizing itself under Japan. So it was a different time, a hopeful time, and a time where Washington in particular wanted to be ambitious with the agenda. What we've seen is, fast forwarding to today and this week, frankly, in Los Angeles, is it's a different time. There are now alternatives for the region, China among them, right? The United States isn't the only game in town. We're not the only superpower vying for the hearts and minds of the Western Hemisphere. And frankly, we've been distracted ourselves. We've been distracted over the last couple decades in terms of the war on terror, but also more recently, we've been distracted by the war in Ukraine, by the COVID pandemic, by economic recovery, all sorts of things. So the region is feeling a little bit more independent than it used to, and looking for ways to establish that independence somehow. So the ambition there isn't there the way it used to be.
You know, I'll ask you about Mexico's president in just a little bit, but before that, what more might we expect from this year's summit? Tell us just, what are the top priorities?
Well, the top priorities for the administration seem to be migration, a regional accord to help limit the pressure of migrants coming to the southwest U.S. border, but also a recognition that democracy matters in the context of who's at the summit, but also more broadly that democracy itself is something worth fighting for in the hemisphere. And I think you're going to see some initiatives on the healthcare side, particularly pandemic preparedness, and also humanitarian relief. So I think those will be the top priorities from the administration's perspective.
And on that front, do you think that leaders are going to be able to come to any agreements when it comes to issues like migration or climate change?
Well, these are difficult topics by definition. I don't think you're going to see the world change this week necessarily, but hopefully there will be a process put in place, a dialogue put in place that will allow the leaders a comfort level to be able to really continue these discussions that need to be had. At the same time, not every country in the region sees these as their top priority issues. They see economic recovery. They see the need for investments. They see the need to really provide opportunities for their own people. And so migration to the United States may not be their top priorities. We have to keep that in mind, and we have to make sure that we, the United States, are really helping to offer what the other countries are looking for as well, so it's a true partnership.
So those are the substantive issues, but people are really talking a lot about this snub by Mexico's president. He decided to boycott the summit after the Biden administration confirmed that Venezuela, Cuba, and Nicaragua were not invited to participate. Can you give us some context as to why those nations were left off of the guest list, and what impact do you think that the controversy will have on the gathering?
Yeah, absolutely. And this is something it's a perennial issue, but it's really in some level not just the United States making this call. In 2001, on 9/11, actually, ironically, the hemisphere came together to sign the Inter-American Democratic Charter. And one of the provisions of the charter explicitly states that the disruption of democracy in a country is a disqualifier for participation in summits of the Americas. And the three countries you mentioned, Cuba, Venezuela, and Nicaragua, are unfortunately not democratic, and so they're not eligible to participate. Now, the president of Mexico has made it really his cause célèbre to not attend in solidarity with those three countries and really to align himself with three dictatorships in the Western Hemisphere. My personal view is that he would instead have come and looked for ways to really work on issues of mutual concern, particularly migration, particularly job creation, and some of those other issues. There's a time and a place to talk about Venezuela and Nicolas Maduro and Daniel Ortega in Nicaragua. But the Summit of the Americas really is designed to be and agreed to be a grouping of democratically elected leaders across the hemisphere. That's what it's been in the past. And that's what the administration wants to ensure that it remains.
All right, Eric Farnsworth, thank you.
Thank you.